Welcome to Fiery Femmes, the podcast where high-achieving women build wealth, redesign their careers, and create lives with real freedom. I'm Sheena, an accredited investor, former tech sales professional, and the founder of Fiery Femmes. After a decade across global SaaS, startups, and my own reinventions, I realized the most powerful thing a woman can have is optionality. So, in every episode, we explore the future of work, the psychology of wealth, and the practical strategies that help women build careers and lives that evolve as fast as they do.
Arjun, so excited to have you here. InvestorKit has been gaining media. You've been gaining awards. You've had a tech awards in May as well. So excited to have you, as obviously the market has changed and there's a lot of things in the press, and with you and your data is going to be incredible. A lot of people have sent their questions in as well.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Well, Arjun, I know I've known you for a few years now and would love to know, out of all the asset classes, what made you revert into real estate?
Well, for me, it was around the table, just conversations with family. My dad had given it a crack growing up in New Zealand, watching him invest in some properties. Also, we'd be driving around and he'd be talking about how I look at this property in Bella Vista 2008, which is a few years ago from when you were driving around. He goes, I could have bought that for 300 or 400K, that block of land, and I missed out on that. He'd always have this cheeky way. He goes, because mum said, I'm like, Dad, relax. My mum didn't say not to. He just that was his excuse. He'd blame mum to go, I didn't take action because mum said. I was like, you just didn't take action because you didn't take action. And so we had some little jokes there about growing up and just talking about it. So I think a combination of that, then combined with my first sort of proper full-time job and career, was in the bank, and you just see it all around you. And so when you see it everywhere, you have a couple of feelings. One is hypocritical, to kind of go, I feel weird talking to people about their banking all the time, but I'm not doing this thing. And then second part is aspirational, when you're seeing the random lady or the random guy walk in, very casual, underdressed, and just simple. And then you swipe their bank card on the counter, and then you see the laptop show 4 million debt, 3 million debt. And here's the funny thing, in the world of banking, we don't measure someone's success by how much cash, income, or savings they have. Mm-hmm. We measure it by, when we used to swipe the card, how much debt they have or how much debt we can give them. It's interesting how that works, right?
That is so interesting. That is such a light bulb moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's so backwards. People just think about, how much do you have saved? How much cash did you put away? How much have you got in this account or that account? When really the people who are in that system of wealth creation and money movement and finances, who see the richest of the richest in the country, who every single Aussie goes to do some sort of transaction with or holding funds with, they don't see you as wealthy based on how much cash you have. Of course, if the random bank account pops up and it's got millions and millions, and they're like, whoa. But it was always about, how much debt can I give you? Because that's how much money your businesses and personal incomes are making and can sustain. Or the second one is, how much debt do you have around the system? Because we know it's attached to some good asset. And if you think about the Australian property market, only 25% of a $12 trillion real estate asset base in this country has debt on it. There's only $2.5 trillion debt against $12 trillion of real estate value in Australia. So from that perspective, if you've got debt, it's usually good debt that we could see when you're swiping it. So that was the moments of real estate is the thing for me.
Amazing. That is so good to hear, because there's this notion of the simpler the outfit, the more money usually they have, because they just don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember there was this gentleman, I think he was a Greek guy, shorts, always had paint stains on his top. Those, I don't know what we call them, the gladiator sandals, I think, those very thin, the wooden leather, or the leather strap on top or sort of thing. And scruffy hair, and an elderly gentleman. And you're just if you didn't know that person, you'd be very assuming just to think they're in the trades or they're having a rough day at home doing some DIY. But he had over $10 million in real estate assets with no debt on there, all rental income coming in, was technically retired. He just liked a few of us in the branch and would come in once in a few while to just hang out, have a chat, and then also just know, what we could help him with, if anything, with certain products or things to help. And as the branch manager of that branch in Marrickville at the time, I was just all right, wealth isn't loud. It's very unassuming.
Very much so. And I like how that is overarching in a lot of things, someone was asking, I was scrolling on Reddit and someone was asking what they should wear going to like a high-end shop. I think they were trying to like plan for their outfit to go to maybe an Hermes or like a Prada or Chanel. A lot of the comments were like, actually, the more casual or like the more homeless looking you are when you go into the shop, the better that they treat you.
It's funny how that works, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. When you were working Commonwealth Bank and you made that transition to open Investor Kit, how did that go? And what gave you that conviction that it was all going to work out?
Yeah, so I didn't have the conviction that it was going to work out. I don't operate life in that way. I actually operate life in the doomsday mindset. Everything in my life when I take decisions is doomsday in mind. So, for example, I sat there and I said, what if it doesn't work out for 4 years? What's the worst case? Okay, all right, you come back to the corporate world, you have a 6-figure role, you have your master's degree, you have a multi-property portfolio. I had 9 properties before quitting my job.
Wow.
And I was age 25 and they were worth around just over $3 million at that time in 2018. So at that age, no business income. At that, early on in life, 22 to 25, we did that all in 3 years. So that's your worst case. You come back, you hold those assets, you put money away, you go up the corporate ladder, you gave it a crack, and you have some cool stories. And you never feel disappointed in life that when you grow older, you go, oh, what if I wonder what would have. So from that perspective, I operate on worst cases. If my worst case does not look good, I tend to not make that decision. If my worst case still looks like something I could live with, then I make the decision. And so from that perspective, if you take that approach to life away from this, what you have is just 1 to 2 clear things to do. Number 1 is define what you're doing and the worst case that you'd be having if that was done and didn't work out. Then the second would be make your worst case a strategy to be as good as possible. So that's when you invest in yourself, in mentors, skills, communities, learning, hard work, relationships. When you put all the things in your favor of your worst case being elevated, tough decisions with risk on the other side don't look or feel as tough. So that's the kind of transition point for me.
That's so good. And how long until, because, like the first few years of a new business, that real startup mode is such a grind. How long until you've had that conviction, like, okay, this is working?
I would say year 2. And year 2 was the year where and I say year 1 and 2 loosely, I talk in financial years. So I technically started the business in May of 2018. So it was a very partial financial year for the months to follow. But in the 18-19 FY was the first year and it wasn't pretty. Like the first year was a lot of scattered effort, some support from old friends that were wanting to use our services, had some good momentum there, but sales, marketing, business, operations, systems, all these things, you just knew it could have been better because you worked in a large corp where you just knew what good looked like and great looked like. But then you had this constant balance and challenge between realizing that's a 100-plus-year-old brand with billions in revenue, profits, and also extremely talented, smart, capable individuals who've been working there for years and decades, who've built their careers there. And then here's you starting it and being not impressed with where you are because of that. So I think the main thing is year 1 was that mental, that learning, that growth. But then in year 2 was the moment where I'm like, hold on a minute. A whole bunch of strangers that you didn't know, that were once removed friends, once removed contacts, are trusting you with this. They see what you're trying to do. They want you to help them. Come on then. Like, let's go. Like, this is something that you can do. And then it made me realize that this is going to be bigger than just me and a business, and I could make a lot of impact because I was starting to make right decisions, not just with my own money for myself, but also for others. And so that's the kind of like confidence kicker in year 2. And of course, since year 2 till now, there's been many moments where you're like, tough, can I, should I, am I, all those questions that you ask yourself as a founder. And having a great family support unit, having a great team, having great clients, all these things just help you push and break through things.
Incredible. And I know right now your social media is amazing. It's part of the machine. But during 2018, 2019, was it also as big as it is now? Or did you understand the impact of social media then?
Funnily enough, I was a very early adopter, even though I haven't built a big, what's really interesting about me is if you measure social media in different ways, you can get very different perceptions of what good looks like. For example, if you look at my follower base, you'd say I've got 10 or 11K on LinkedIn, 10 or 11 on social, Facebook, 20 on Insta for the company, 8 to 10 for me personally. I'm just talking follower base, right, on each platform. Then I've also got 11K on YouTube. So in isolation, when you take any of these numbers, by no means is that influencer, by no means is that big following base, successful social media. But even with those followers, this financial year just been, we've had almost $25 million in revenue across our group of companies, like our own group of companies across finance, life insurance, and property. And soon we'll be looking to add some other verticals to that too. And so I think we have to separate social media being good at it from what's typical perception, like followers. I'm still going to aim to grow that. I think I'd like to be better at that because I know that when you've got something so powerful that you can impact so many families' lives, like we've created now $510 million of equity for clients. That's not properties purchased. That's not number of value of purchases. That is equity. That is the value. And today, value versus purchase price. And that's like the growth that's happening. So that's impact. People's lives get changed with equity, not purchases. People's lives get changed with equity, not cash flow in property. And so when you've got that and you've made that with all those little followers, I think the perception of social media doesn't need to always be like success as followers. But now I know that formula's there of doing that with such low. Now I want a lot of followers because if we do that, I just know we can help you. We've got 8 years of testing this, battle testing it, trying formulas, research, data, SOPs, process, talent, skills, education, certifications. All these things have been building and growing. And so from that perspective, social media, it keeps getting better over the years. But I also have reminders to myself when I look at the follower base, I'm like, I'm not that good at it just yet. But somehow, altogether, whether it's good karma, whether it's customers telling others, repeat, referrals, this, ads, all comes together and it equals a growing business over time.
Yeah, definitely not the vanity metrics, which is great. I think those numbers are amazing, but also for what you do. I think because it's such a high purchase price, you don't, I would say, obviously the more followers, the better, but still, because of the high ticket price, it's A-okay. Would love to know, are you on TikTok as well?
I could be, I might be, like maybe a couple of hundred followers here and there, or maybe a couple of K and some company account, but not really.
Got it. Still not tinkering on the TikTok space. I'm scared.
I think I'd love to be everywhere. I think the main thing is just bandwidth, focus, team scale, where the team's at in different platforms and focus. We're still learning, we're still growing, but if anyone's a whiz in that space and has proven success and wants to throw their name in the hat, drop me a DM.
There you go. You heard it all here first, folks. Just incredible in the media space. Definitely will train you up as well. Very supportive. Cool. So now I would love to know, you've worked with a lot of people who are first buyers in investing space, and a lot of people who have been, they're on like the third, fifth, maybe 10th properties. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions in property investing?
I would say the biggest one is needing or feeling like the need of 8 to 10 properties, 7 to 10 properties, like feeling like you need a very prolific portfolio to get there. And so I would say that many people are surprised when we show them that somewhere between 2 to 4 investment properties is enough to get you a 6-figure passive income. And the issue that most people face is that they don't see the passive income from the 1 or 2 or 3. So they think that they need 8 to 10 or 7 to 10. But that's when people are looking at it wrong. They're looking at property as an income tool. No, property is a wealth tool. The income comes actually from other assets, selling properties, moving to a financial planner, speaking to them about all the other ways to generate income from a high asset base that's been released into cash, post debt being clear. People think property equals have properties, get them debt free equals this much rent. No, that's a failing game. It's a loss. In my opinion, that's a game that you're losing opportunity, because what happens is value typically rises at 5 to 7% long-term growth rates in property. Mm-hmm. Now with leverage, that's great because you didn't have to put that much to get the total asset going in that way. But when it comes to rental growth and rental income, property typically grows 3 to 4% on rents. So every single year that goes on, rents are separating from purchase price, and your income has management, vacancy, council, maintenance, insurance, water, taxes. So the net number, most people are probably sitting on a 1.5% to 3% net yields, even later on, because not the net yield today, but the yield against a much higher purchase price that has kept growing because you held it for so long. So that means you've got a really poor performing income asset, but you've got a great growth asset because you only put in maybe 150K to buy this 5 to 700K property that then grew so much and is now worth millions decades later. So the main thing is you don't need as many, and it's not your savior in retirement. It's the wealth creator that you exit. And if you move to other asset classes, commercial property, financial planning, high dividend stocks, or other things, you will see a return far greater than the property portfolio. But the property portfolio with leverage managed to help you get there with a large base of assets.
Got it. Got it. So that's so interesting that you said that it's not necessarily an income tool, but it's a wealth tool.
That's right.
Yeah. And because a lot of I also grew up like reading Robert Kiyosaki, also loves property. And the thought of property being a passive income. And now I think like you and I and everyone who has property is like, it is not that passive. We obviously we are great landlords. We repair things as well. So like things happen and you have to pay for them. So yeah, very interesting that it is a wealth tool at the end of the day. And you look at the growth of equity of that asset.
Yeah, look, I agree. And it just does not get any passive over time. Like it is a proper wealth tool. It's an active wealth tool. And then you move to passive assets later on in life, whether it be commercial property or other ones.
Yeah, amazing. I'm very interested on the commercial property landscape at the moment. How is it like in Australia now? I feel like there's a big growth in like commercial property investing.
Yeah, so I think in terms of the commercial property investment, it is definitely getting hotter and hotter right now, right? I think there's pros and cons with that. The pro is that we're going to see a lot of people start to be more educated on it, try to understand it more, and take it seriously because it is the wealth turning to income part of a portfolio. But the downside of it is people are going to make a lot of expensive mistakes. This is the assets that you're left with, not you grow with. So when you're left with the commercial property assets and you're living off them, do you want the random nail salon or hairdresser, affordable, cheapy deal in a suburban commercial market full of retail shops that have high vacancy, high business turnover, and then also have headaches for you in terms of costs, releasing, stress, especially for when you're going from a 3, 4, 5 residential property portfolio, trying to tone down to 1 to 2 debt-free commercials. That's 50% of your income at risk if you get it wrong. So we actually want to make sure we support clients with commercial done right. And with that, we're often only purchasing commercial property between that 2.5, 3 mil range or higher, only because the tenants, the locations, the lease types, the deal types get better and better and better as the prices rise. Of course, you can still get it wrong at high prices, but it gets better. And then also we have to have the right commercial team around you. One thing that's really interesting is that people who seek advice from the wealthy often don't do what the wealthy do. How many wealthy people do you see out there DIY their whole life or DIY their whole, wealth building journey? Very little. But yet the people who are aspired by the wealthy, who want the outcomes that investments that the wealthy have achieved or gotten do the complete opposite. They hear the story. It's like, wow, property, great. Resi, commercial, great. Shares, great. Whatever it looks like. And then they go DIY. And so the best, whether it be the movies, the round table, the businessman or businesswoman walks in, sits down, and there's like all these people advising them on what to do. Like even the movies are telling you what the wealthy do. So the thing is, it's building a team. And commercial, you need that team around you. We actually just won, Commercial Buyers Agent of the Year. Chris Huckster, our partner of commercial investments, just took out that award. And that was the Australian Buyers Agents Awards this year. But yeah, it just shows you commercial with the right team can make a big difference.
Congratulations. I didn't know that that InvestorKit has expanded into commercial as well. Well done.
No, thank you. It's been a few years now doing it. I'd say 4 years doing commercial property. And every single year it's gotten bigger and bigger because of the life cycle. Our clients should not be supported the same way every year. As time goes on, their portfolio dynamic should shift with it because that's true strategic approach, not just transacting like most buyers agents do.
Beautiful. Great to hear it. And just curious, do you also deal with either warehouses or data centers?
Yeah. So look, I think industrial property, the main point, whether it be certain businesses run from it, industrial property is definitely a big, big part of our remit and focus. we find the three most common asset types we're buying are commercial, industrial, commercial, medical, and then large retail. So not the small retail strip, but large. I'm talking about a major anchor tenant, like whether it be, thinking out loud, BCFs, like big, areas there, major retail brands, IGAs in the space where like large tenancies, strong tenancies are sitting there with long brand history and long leases remaining. Occasionally in select markets, there are also very strong large childcares too, where the vacancy is tight. But these are the core assets, industrial being like almost 2/3 of our purchases.
I'm getting so excited. This is because I know that this is going to be like minimum 5-year leases, 10 years, 20 years. This is amazing.
Yeah, I think commercial has that big strength as well. And of lease length, 2.5, 3+ years should be your minimum sort of target, or at least comfort that it's going to be tenanted very quickly. But yeah, look, I mean, it's been a special journey. Obviously, you've been a client of ours, which has been amazing to see and seen the power of residential property. And then over time, residential will then transition its growth and we'll be helping you with commercial.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. We'll take that chat offline. But I guess what we'll do, because it's so interesting, I'm going back into like investing, especially for the first time investors. I was at a dinner the other night, and when I tell them what I do, what Fiery Femmes does, someone asked me about like, oh, is it still worth investing with the recent changes? And they did try to like give me the inflation numbers, and then if you're only playing with 1%, like, is it still worth it? And for me, I'm like, yes, because at this point in time, it's a policy change. Policy changes all the time, but if you don't have the muscle to invest with $1, $10, $100, you're not going to be able to make decisions for bigger checks, like a few $100,000, $1 million. Like that is going to be so overwhelming for you because you wouldn't know the principles. So I guess giving it to the expert, a lot of people or a lot of young people are saying that investing is not worth it at the moment because of the recent tax policies. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think the key thing that is in that statement is at the moment. And so one of the biggest mistakes people make in their portfolio is what's called moment in time metrics analysis. So moment in time. And so what they're doing right now is a classic example of the moment in time analysis. So to give you some context, if we go back to the times where people spoke about 17, 16% interest rates that they had, that was a moment in their life at the time. But if someone had a 100K home back in St. Mary's in 1990s, which was possible back then, believe it or not, in the early hundreds, you fast forward to today, those homes are worth $1.5 million in that suburb in the western suburbs of Sydney. Now, back then, if someone had an 80K debt on such high interest rates, they'd be crazy, like high debt against that 100K plus property, far out west, who wants to be there, high crime, and so far from everything. Large block of land with such high maintenance, asbestos-filled homes, and then also having very low rental yield as time has gone on. Now, if that person stayed on interest only, even with those high interest rates and just held it from then to now, you ask the same person who maybe never paid that off, they just kept refinancing and stayed at interest only. You ask them, hey, so what's your debt today on that St. Mary's property worth 1.5, 1.6? And they say, 80K. Oh my God, you owe nothing on that. That's amazing. But they owed a lot at some point, had a lot of interest rates at some point. It was the far out, the high crime, the high maintenance, the old property with a lot of maintenance on the block, the asbestos filled, the low rental yield, the high debt. You're crazy. Fast forward, you have no debt on a $1.6 million property worth 80K. Amazing. So inflation can be your friend. And that's an example of it. The debt that was worth a lot back then is now worth nothing. And also, as time goes on, the situation at that moment of time wasn't pretty for that person, but now they look like a genius. You fast forward 20 years from now, we all know one thing: real estate is not going to be as cheap as it is today.
Yeah.
We also know another thing, which is the debt today will keep getting, impacts of inflation, making it worthless. Just like the 80K debt against the 100K property was high back then, today's 650, 700, 800K debt against the 900K $1 million property will feel like nothing decades later. And so if you are now then going, well, no, Arjun, let's just believe it's true that nothing of the past can be replicated in the future, nothing. Then also realize this, that when you look at the values of all those things that you're impacted on today, you're saying that today it may not be worth it. And then you're hoping that, okay, if that's the today, fast forward to the day it is, you're telling me that you hope to perfectly transact and time your opportunity and your entry when everyone is coming back, and you'll be able to still get it when everyone's coming back into the mix because you waited all this time. All I can tell you is the amount of stories that you hear. I wish I'd invested back in 2020. I'd wish I'd invested back in 2022. And you'll fast forward a few years and people will go, I wish I'd invested when sentiment was this low in 2026.
Oh, like when you say sentiment is low, like people are not as interested to invest, or like the
Yeah.
invest confidence.
Yeah. Finance numbers are down between 15 to 45% post budget, depending on which state you look at for investor loans. So finance is down. Finance and property go hand in hand. And so from that perspective, you can expect weakness in many areas as a result in sentiment because people are just not feeling it. They're not sure. They're confused. And that's what government changes do. Even the government changes that come in for the better, sometimes people are confused about what it means. I remember people on the equity share scheme, the new scheme that the government put out saying, we'll share the home with you and share the debts with you, we'll share everything with you, get in sooner. Go and find some stats on the take up of that. Hardly hasn't been it's been a flop. And so from that perspective, it just shows you even when people are doing good, people are unsure, uncertain, trying to help, but then it's like not delivered right, not managed right, not as attracting to some people. And they're thinking, well, I don't want to, I'm not sure about this. Should I not? So if even when someone's trying to help an issue, even though it might not be the best delivered package, people don't take it up, are confused, are unsure. What makes us think that when people are clearly attacking a group of people, investors, that they're going to just take rapid action? So the smarter investors are taking action because it's much easier to buy right now. You're getting steals and deals. It's also the best time to probably upgrade your family home in major cities like Sydney and Melbourne because it's never been better buying times in the more pricier areas of these markets. We're actively helping some clients even sell down a couple of their investments that we've bought for them that have done well so they can buy a Sydney home at a bargain. Nice. And so there's things there that people can do depending on what they want, whether it's selling and upsizing a home or whether it's continue to grow an investment portfolio.
Got it. That's really interesting because, yeah, you're right. Like it's such a great time to buy. Obviously, we're always looking at like real estate, and you can see that now property listings have prices. Before it was always like an auction or just inquire, like the prices were never shown.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like agents just are recognizing that the market's a bit funky, so they just want people to get there. And your first goal, depending on whether you don't want to show the price or show the price, it's getting people to the property and then the conversations start happening.
Beautiful. I feel like my listeners would be annoyed if I didn't ask, but let's just start with 5. What would be the 5 areas that you would recommend for listeners to have some research on or to talk to you about?
Absolutely. Let's start talking through a few. So if you've got a budget of 600K to 750K and you're wanting to get to a cycle earlier on before the recovery and things start to pick up and you're okay to sit in a bit of a hot zone, a bit of fire of like nothing happening. Did I make the right decision type mindset? And, I don't expect it to grow immediately. When is it going to grow? That type of like heat in your mindset. Like, are you okay to sit there for that zone? Then Victoria's your friend. Melbourne, Ballarat, Bendigo, Geelong, Shepparton, these sort of areas, right? If you're looking at, then I want growth to happen sooner and I want that money to make money sooner, then there are places like Geraldton, Bunbury, Dubbo, Wagga, Albury, Launceston, Hobart, Burnie, Devonport. These markets are moving. Townsville, Rockhampton, they're moving. Although everywhere's taken a bit of a sentiment dip and you're picking up a better deal, in the months prior and the months ahead, it's expected that these markets still, do well. Now, from that perspective, that's the I want to make money sooner kind of thing. But it's important to recognize that you're still buying in a low sentiment time, where you're going to have your returns sooner than you would in the VIC markets. Now, if you're looking at markets where you're like, I want it all. I want improving rental yields. I want healthy rental yields. I want for the price that is. Now my budget is higher than 800 and maybe I can go to 1.2 million. And I'm looking at getting into this market in good timing where people are feeling a bit unconfident and wanting to pick up assets that if you fast forward a few years, you'll be like, okay, I'm surprised I got that deal and how good the yield is. Then you're probably looking at markets like Maitland and Newcastle. Those two are picking up in that 800 to 1.2 mil. And I'm just noticing like You never used to be able to get rental yields there at 4% plus, and you're starting to see rental yields at 4% plus for such big prices.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And would love to know, obviously, you've worked with a lot of professionals, whether in the professional services space, tech backgrounds, law, and you also work with a lot of women. Obviously, one of another client that has referred you to me, obviously. Would love to know what advice would you give to 20-year-olds today, especially as they're building their portfolio, investing, and their careers?
Yeah. So firstly, in the 20s, let's break a bucket. Let's break the career down. Let's break the investing journey down, and let's break the mindset. So mindset, investing, career. We'll break it down. In the career space, I have two big tips there that have been game changers for me. Number one is deeply understand your leader, hiring manager, deeply understand their KPIs, not yours, theirs. Make sure that you're not just working to yours, but you're working to theirs. Because the person who can constantly make sure that their leader is able to say that this person brings the best for me, of themselves, supports me to get to my goals, they're constantly in the boardrooms and the conversations speaking about that person. Because as that leader gets elevated, you elevate with them. As that leader is asked about people in their team, you're constantly mentioned. The second thing is be in an area where you're working in, whether it be in your corporation or whether it be in the industry, there's enough depth. Depth can be roles of different swim lanes that can each have their own climb, or roles in your own in that area that can go up as well. So depth and then KPI understanding. Of course, gift wrap that with do right, work hard, educate yourself, mentorship, learning, coaching. But they're all the things, right? This is the X factors. They're the X factors beyond doing a good job. In terms of the mindset, the problem we people have right now in mindset is that it's never been louder in the world to say you're wrong for doing that, don't do that, you shouldn't do that, you can't do that, that's the wrong way, this is the wrong way. And what I mean by that is there's never been a more not at peace world. Mm-hmm. And there's never been a more world that I've noticed today around you're wrong for doing, you're wrong for trying, you're wrong for doing this. And everything you do is attacked with but you could have, but you shouldn't, but you didn't, but what about this? You could take that to any principle of life. Like you're going to get slammed in anything you do, whether it's friend circle, internet, or thoughts. You could eat meat and someone will say you're wrong for doing it. You could be a vegetarian and someone will say you're wrong for doing that. You could have a bit of both and someone will say pick a side. Right. So I guess the main thing is anything you do right now, mindset wise, is more challenging today because of all this information and all this challenge and opposing thoughts that I think is the most there's ever been in the history of what we do, so easily available to you. So you've really got to lock in on people. So what I mean by that is pick a person. That person might be aspirational to you across many parts of life. It might be health, wealth, relationship, family, values, religion, belief. You could pick multiple people, but once you've got your 1, 2, 3 people, 2 to 4, maybe one only, this is your lock in on them, ignore the noise, and then build a life that you'd be proud of, because from a mindset perspective, you're following habits of those people that uplift you or inspire you to those areas. And then when it comes to investing, the thing with investing is a lot of the investing success now will continue to be a minority, not a majority, and even more so will be more and more minority. Because when you put that mindset culture with taking action and doing something, the benefit for you is you'll have a lot less people trying. So you actually have an X factor. Even though the environment may be tougher, where prices are, how incomes are, cost of things, I'm not saying they're any less. And even the guilt of how many things you could do with your card or digital banking that you couldn't do in the past that you can do today. You could go and spend a lot more in different areas of life much easier than you could in the decades prior. So there's a lot more things that can catch you out and also things that are tougher. But what ends up happening is that there's a lot less competition. And so as a result, people are investing themselves, people are investing in their financial future, putting money away, trying to buy into an asset. There's just a lot less people that are going to be competing for all of that, in my opinion, simply because there's more people as time goes on in the camp of, I don't believe I can, it's not worth it, we shouldn't, let's hold off. And so if you want to create a life full of certain memories and experiences, go be my guest. You can, right? But I think you can do both. I mean, you can do both. And so I think from that perspective, someone in their 20s, get started with the investing habits, put some money away, start with the belief that you can, whatever the prices may look like 5, 6, 7, 8 years, or what they are currently, how many stories you hear. There are also many stories on the other side that show it can be done. And like I mentioned, we've generated more than 510 million of equity, and they're not all 2018 stories. Many of them are 2026 stories too of getting some
Wow.
results. So, and that's not the 50s and 60s wealthy person that saved all their life. There's couples in their 20s and 30s working with us. So I think from that perspective, yeah, just realize that these are my big tips on the career, on the investing, on the mindset to help a 20-year-old get ahead. And I feel like with that, they'll get forward with their career, they'll get taking action on their finances, and they'll block the noise on the mindset.
That is beautiful. Great words of wisdom. I'd love to ask on the mindset piece. Do you mean when you choose, let's say, 1, 2, or 3 people to really just lock in and like almost like listen to their advice, that aspirational person? Is that like a mentor that would you want that a connection with them, a direct contact with them, or even like maybe your favorite podcaster or favorite author? Is that what that means?
Yeah, so I would say that you can take it as far as close as you want. Yeah, sure, you can have mentor coaching, you could have your leaders, you could have people on YouTube, podcasting. All I'd just say is not too many voices and not none at all. If you have too many voices, someone will say don't have debt, someone will say have debt. Someone will say, be single, enjoy and travel. Another will say the relationship will uplift you. So it's like, too many voices, too many opposing thoughts. That's what gets people stuck. And then you can have a lot of inspiration. You can have a lot of books read. You can have a lot of videos watched, but you did nothing. And so that's more common out there than a lot of people think is just so much information. So when I say pick 3 to 4 people, you might pick one lane of values, and then you might have different layers and levels of growth. Example, a local business owner, a national coach or mentor, a international celebrity or star, an international, business or investor or global, individual, corporation, whatever it may be. The main thing is you have these layers and levels, but they follow the same line. If you start to have separation and approaches, then you just constantly get stuck.
Words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Arjun. This has been super valuable. I'm sure a lot of people will just have so many insights from all this conversation. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Fiery Femmes. If this resonated, share it with a woman in your life because we rise higher when we rise together. Don't forget to follow and review. It helps more women access the tools and conversations that build wealth and confidence. For more career and financial empowerment, come hang out on Instagram and YouTube at Fiery Femmes. I'll see you in the next episode.